There we are. That was very odd. Welcome everyone. This is Reality Check. This is Cindy, and we are a group here from an open door. And in this particular time, which you are welcome to join us if you're listening on YouTube, we meet 10 a.m. Eastern on Fridays to have a direct experience with the teachings found right now in Reality Check. But after that, we'll move to some other teachers. Really, really glad to be here. As is our habit, or as is the habit that's been arising as of late, I have Helen Hamilton clip to begin us off with. Um, it's less than 4 minutes long. So we'll begin there and then we'll go to chapter 3 and we'll find out who's reading and we will, as is, we will we'll read until one of us wishes to stop and sink deeper into what was just shared. Is there anything anyone would like to say before I play the clip? We love us. Just started crying.
I love writing about all of my desires, even what the mind labels as personal desires. It is really creative and a fun process. How can I still do that without feeding the illusion of a separate being? And secondly, I'd like to know if focusing on the feelings of those desires is the best way to allow them into my experience. Much love and gratitude. So there are no personal desires. There are desires that may feel more selfish than others. So I'd like a new car is going to feel more selfish than I'd like to facilitate world peace. But really, it's the same. It's the same thing. We're doing it because we're going to feel better. And if there is no separate entity, no separate self anyway, then there can be no selfish, small self desires. Every desire is selfish with a capital S, the real self. It is the real self wanting manifestation to expand. How to do that without the illusion of a separate being, without sustaining that? Well, have that desire, feel that desire, but don't feel that you have to make it happen yourself. The fact that you have this desire means that it is already in the process of manifestation, that it's not something you have to do as a separate being. Our mind says, I want this thing, so I've got to make it happen. The self, capital S, says, consciousness, I want this thing, and so it's already unfolding. My role is to feel the desire and to look at any beliefs that might get in the way of that manifestation process. So if I don't feel worthy enough, if I don't feel safe, that's going to inhibit and diminish what can show up in my experience. And so it's a flip. What we do, feeling desire, but what we're doing with that. I don't have to make it. Here's another 180. Anything I do to try to make this desire manifest is going to actually slow it down as the self. Just to recognize, because I want it, it's already coming. And what can I do to feel as good as I can about that and release resistance to it? And that leads nicely into the last bit, is focusing on the feelings of those desires. Going to make them the easiest way to allow them in, absolutely. In fact, there was a point where I stopped asking for any particular things, and my desires were all focused on how I wanted to feel. I looked at how I wanted to feel, because then reality can give me every way. So if I want to feel fulfilled or peaceful, and I'm trying to say, if I get a new job, I'm going to feel more fulfilled. That's probably true. But there's probably 100 other ways that life is trying to give us opportunities that reflect our fulfillment experiences. And if we focus on how we want to feel, then life can give us all the ways instead of just this one. We're also much more up and less resistant to that happening. So I literally wrote down a list of what I wanted to feel. I wanted to feel excited, passionate, confident, peaceful. I wanted a sense of purpose. I wanted to feel like I was contributing. It went on like that, this list, and I just focused on that. And that seemed much more attainable too, much more believable. And little by little, my world began to reflect that back to me. So lovely. I hope that helps. Very good question.
Kendall asks, what would she say about unsavory desires? Don't know. Perhaps we'll ask her. Is there anyone that would like to say anything about
The
Rana
unsavory.
states, is it
Okay.
not a false eye which says that they are unsavory? Who's judging the desire is unsavory? Pretty funny. All right, somebody, Alko, is that you? Did I hear your voice? Go for it.
I was going to say they manifest too, unsavory desires.
Shall we begin reading, or do we want to discuss the clip?
Well, I just have one aha that I heard there was that these desires are all coming from capital S self. You know, and there's a lot of looking at, you know, desire and wanting and things like that. And like Kendall's pointing to, right? I've labeled them unsavory. But isn't it just part of the manifestation of experience that capital S self is having? And maybe some of it goes this way and some of it goes that way and some of it goes that way, you know? So that really piqued my interest. It sounded sort of like Abraham Hicks in a way about generating the feeling we want to have, and those desires come in that direction.
Well, just to be very transparent, as I was listening to the clip for the first time, you know, we're all doing this together. I get to press buttons here in this bodysuit. I less and less am I pre-evaluating what we do here. But what came up for me actually was a conversation that Amy and I and a few others had after the Finding Truth Everywhere meeting yesterday about passion. And Amy was just voicing how passionate she was about these teachings and expressing everything in oneness. And Helen was just pointing to, you know, the self's desire for this passion to be expressed. And the purity of the expression of the passion is what I started tapping into. You know, there's a desire here to know the oneness and to experience all the flavors of living a life. Rana just said I was feeling untethered, so I'm going to say it. Living untethered by past limitations. Doesn't that sound fabulous? So that's what I'm holding as a result of being here with you in this class and listening to that clip. Question I have.
I have a desire today. I don't know how to say that, but I'm not feeling well today, and I'm feeling just all I can say is I feel I'm seeing the door that someday I'm going to have to walk through, and it's just an awareness that I have today. I've had it before, but I have it today, and you know, and it's, you know, it's so weird. You know, things are not the light that I see. You know, the everyday where I am, it seems to getting less. You know, things are getting a little darker. And so I want to put, this is a poem I wrote. I posted it this morning. And I just want to share it because you never know. And so, and this is what I feel like I need to do today. So I'm going to read it. I know Richard already saw it. So believing can start with a little itch you found in your mind. You planted this seed, and with some loving and nurturing, it began growing. You might have considered letting it die, but you let it run its course just in case it panned out. You didn't quit on it. You believed in it, and maybe even hoped a little. And look at what happened. It kept growing into a knowing that you will always have and can share. Good for you. Good God on you. And I just wanted to pass that on today because it just felt important for me to do that. And I, like I said, maybe tomorrow I'll just feel great and go out and be a kick-ass person. But today I'm just feeling my mortality. And so I said, just in case, I'm going to pass that on.
So much love, David. And after Sandra shares, when we start reading, can I volunteer you to begin our reading of
I
reality
don't know.
check?
I'm not familiar with what's going on today.
Well, we're going to pull up Reality Check, which is Helen's book, and we're going to just read at chapter 3. And I'm just wondering if we could hear your voice read these words. I'm going to pull it up on the screen.
So
Okay.
you're
You'll
going to
just read. I'm gonna screen share.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, but first, I know Sandra had something she wanted to say. If she unmutes.
My iPad isn't responding, but I loved hearing her. I always do. And she articulated a realization that I had a couple of months ago. Because what she's saying is really practical for everyday life in the illusion. I was always wanting to travel ever since I retired. I retired like 15 years ago. I want to travel here. I want to travel there. I'm planning all these trips. And a couple of months ago, I got back from this long trip. It was a beautiful trip. And I was standing looking out my back window. And I realized very vividly that it wasn't the going and the trip. It wasn't the vacation or the places that I went to. I realized it was the feeling I got while I was traveling. And she articulated that so beautifully. And I realized that I was having that feeling and that experience right there, looking out my back window. And I didn't have to go anywhere.
Beautiful.
And I just love the way she explained that because I've never really, this is the first time I've spoken about that. And I stopped the incessant planning of the next trip. It's really nice. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
I do.
I don't have to go anywhere. I can have exactly, and I can even look at, if I want to see what Scotland looks like, all I have to do is Google it. But it doesn't mean I'll stop traveling. But I get it now. I get that I'm generating everything. And I like the idea of her list of desires has changed to feelings that she wants. And I really love that you opened it with Amy's enthusiasm because I get that so much in the past couple of weeks. It's probably always been there, but it's penetrating to me, Amy's enthusiasm and passion. I don't know why I said that. I guess I just needed to. That's all.
All right. All right. Eckhart Tolle said that traveling makes us drop the normal thinking, and that's why we want to travel. We get to escape the normal, incessant thoughts. Thank you. All right. Shall we read? I've learned how to press buttons before. And share. Okay. So, David, if you would unmute, we are on chapter 3. What does it mean to be formless? And the way we do this is you could read slowly, and the moment there's something that is being read that you would want to stop and have a discussion about, go ahead and stop. If anyone in the room wishes to talk about anything that was just spoken, they just unmute and we stop. And we set the intention to have a direct experience of these pointings. So it's all yours, Dave. Thank you.
All right. What does it mean to be formless? Most people that use self-inquiry do so to a certain point and then stop after a basic level of realization of what we are. To fully understand what it means to be formless and to live as that is going to live as that is going to require you to challenge every assumption or thought you believe. It does not take a long time, nor need it be difficult if you are already willing to change the way you perceive the world, yourself, and other beings. The aim of this book is to help you challenge every thought and assumption that is currently holding you in a limited perception of reality. You will have to be honest with yourself when an assumption pops up and you feel resistance to looking at it. You will also have to be honest with yourself if you find you are becoming distracted from this most vital work and realizing you are truly realizing what you truly are in its fullness. Right now in this world, there are thousands upon thousands of spiritual seekers who believe they know the full truth of what they are because they have seen what you have seen in the previous chapters. People will often say something like, I have seen what I really am, but I still have to live in the world. Or how do I live in this formlessness, but still have to pay my bills and go to work? Many times I hear people who say and believe they have fully realized the truth of what they are, but they are still deeply they still deeply believe in an out here that is different to the reality of the formless self. If you find this is still the case for you, then realization is not yet complete. True knowing of the formlessness is to know yourself as all the reality. There is no world or manifest or reflection external to the unmanifest awareness that you are. The full realization of the absolute reality should and must permeate all your life too, and unless it does, then it is not yet complete. What we call the outer world, the universe of solid objects, is not how we think of it. It is. No form, no body, no subject is really there as we think it is until it has been completely assimilated. You will contact the experience. You will continue to experience lack, limitation, and suffering.
All right, David, let's talk. Can we take a break?
Sure.
All right. I was in a diet experience this morning, talking about looking outside of windows. I'm in this space, it's my turn to contemplate. I look out the window and I see that one of the limbs of the birch tree outside of the window is completely encased in ice. Stunning. It was just a reflection. Then I recognized that I didn't know. It got very disturbed in here, by the way. in this contemplative, open, expansive space, I recognized that these eyes landed on something that was stunningly beautiful, right? And then everything I think I know about the world out there told me what it was. Told me that I was sitting in a warm apartment looking outside at a birch tree that has been there longer than I've been there, that it is December, even though this body's not experiencing cold. Outside, it's in the 20s. It had snowed and then warmed and then cooled. And so an icicle formed around the branch, and that's what I was looking at. I have no direct experience of any of that. What I knew was that this point of consciousness was looking at something that was stunningly beautiful. There were light reflections and gorgeousness, and it was new. It wasn't there yesterday, which is why it caught my eye. And before the mind told me what it was, all I knew was I was experiencing something stunning and beautiful. And all this light was reflecting, and it was interesting, and I could have been there. And then the mind turned on and told me what it was. And it dulled the experience. It put it in something it could be comfortable with. And when I sat and recognized what was going on, this sense of a body got really uncomfortable. There was a real wanting to do something else and not recognize and or justify or defend or whatever, right? It's okay that I'm going to respond like this body's going to respond as if it's 24 degrees outside. And if movement takes me outside, I'm going to put on boots and a coat, and this body's going to be protected by the cold. And all of those things are going to continue to happen. But in that moment, I didn't need any of that. It was just this experience of stunning beauty without words. And then I watched it turn on and give me the words. It's the assumptions, right? Like how much of our lives are based on us just assuming what we think is true. Rana.
Okay, so I'm going to share what happened yesterday because I think it's a glimpse of this. And I will preface it by saying that as we were reading this, there's part of the mind that was like, oh no, I'm not really awakened. I don't see the formless, And so I just stop and I notice that and just note it and move on and listen. Yesterday, I got out of the car, was in my driveway, and I looked down and I saw something. The word beautiful didn't come up. It was interesting, curious. It was like a brown blob. Now, how many people's minds immediately went to what it could be, right? But there was a moment where there was no recognition of what it was and a feeling there, just this brief sense, just to appreciate it, what it was. And then the mind came in and said, is that a mushroom? Because it was on the grass, And then I stepped forward and it was what the mind decided it was a leaf, just a dried, brown, beautiful leaf. It went to mushroom first because this one likes mushrooms and likes looking for mushrooms in the woods. And so it's a familiar image that is carried. But there was that moment of like emptiness where it didn't matter what it was. There was like a curiosity there. And I felt that. And then the label came and it was done. The label shot the experience. It dulled the experience. Whereas maybe if the label hadn't come in, I could have looked at it longer and been curious about shape and color and light and the appreciation of that now moment, which doesn't happen when the ego is rushing and busy and just pulling groceries out of the car and going inside. So, thank you.
Beautiful sharing, Cindy. Seems like stuff is definitely more amazing before we attach words to it. And thank you for reiterating, Rana. Would anybody else like to share before we continue to read? David, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking about the I and the limitlessness of I, and Yen, you were talking about maybe somebody's talking, but anyway, I keep remembering Thich Nhat Hanh's story about just a tree, and the tree. I mean, the tree is part of of at least the consciousness of the tree is part of the I. I mean, it has its own I, maybe it's in my I because I remember it. I think that maybe that's more like it. But it's just, and I'm so comfortable these days with I. And I don't, I mean, the rest of the world that I have to, I just ate my cereal and da. And that's all good and everything, but I don't know I don't even know how to say this, but and that's all okay, all that stuff is okay, but I guess that's part of my I as well. But it doesn't need to distract me or worry me or bother me if it's a good part or a bad part, because it's just, I guess it's just window dressing. It's just, but the I is all there is. And I really know that now. And it's so peaceful and so wonderful and limitless and god awful wonderful that I have now taken my place back into the I, where I thought, what I didn't even know existed, but I was always there, and now I'm aware that I'm there, and that's a good thing. So I would just like to not read anymore because I'm not doing a very good job of reading today, and I'd like to do a better job. I think I'm better at listening today than reading.
It's all good. I think your job at reading was divinely perfect. And the guidance to have read enough is also perfect. Who's going to continue? I just saw Pat open the book. Does that mean you're volunteering? All right, let me screen share for everybody else, and then Pat can continue for us. Same rules apply, which means any one of us can stop the reading at any given time. Yeah? All yours, Pat.
Thanks. I will say again, because it contradicts so many of our cherished assumptions. The world is not different from or separate from the self. The manifest did not ever arise out of the unmanifest. There is no difference between form and formless. You are not a spiritual being having a human experience. There is no being or human. The world only appears to be real until you see what it really is and what you really are. These statements may seem amazing and untrue right now, but I would urge you to remain open as we begin to break down the assumptions that make it seem as though you are living in a solid, tangible world inside a solid human body that is moving around in time and space. You will be able to take what you read and see if it is true when, wait a second, you will be able to take what you read and see if it is true when you apply it. Only then will you see that nothing is the way you have thought it was. There is just the one, and that one is you. You are everywhere at all times, and you are not somewhere. Ideas like somewhere and everywhere don't apply to you if you are formless. Let's stop and check in right now. Take a moment to directly experience the answer to the question, what am I and where am I? If you notice when you actually experience your true self, you will find you are not a thing, not a form. You can recognize that you are very much here, but where are you actually? Can you even say where you are and where you are not? Do you have any boundaries?
Have you ever done that, by the way? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting again. I'm not
Oh,
sorry.
I was like done there. I thought that was a good stopping point.
I've never done that. You know, we've asked questions like, who am I? Or where am I now? I don't know if I've ever looked for if I can find where I'm not. Please, Alka.
Mhm.
I have done that. And I fell into the trap that she mentions, where I thought I'm here and I'm everywhere, which she said is wrong. You're one thing, but I could not get past the body, even though I could feel myself everywhere. I still thought I was the body and everywhere. So I was still in duality, so to speak.
Well,
It's,
she actually says about that it seems like you have a body. So you can
I
be
know.
everywhere and still have this experience of seeming to have a body. But I keep going back to sentence one here in the introduction. You are the formless reality in which the universe is simply an appearance and not an actual thing. I mean, that it's like the beginning of the course where it says nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. If you get that sentence, if you just get those sentences, you don't need the whole book. This is, you are the formless reality in which the universe is simply an appearance and not an actual thing. And as a a fan of astronomy, I just yesterday was tooling through the JWST, the James West Space Telescope on the NASA site. You should look at that stuff, man. Oh, it is amazing. It's amazing. There's billions and billions of galaxies that, but that's inside me. It's not an actual reality, but it's gorgeous. So, I mean, I recommend it. It's fun.
So before I give it to Amy, David mentioned Just Tree, which is one of my favorite stories. So here's a confession. When we're talking about still believing we're a body and we still have history, I'm listening to Pat talk about loving astronomy, and my attention got pulled into a memory of Pat and Pete going to this place to look at the stars, and Pat losing her glasses and then going to need to find the glasses in the middle of the night. And they do all of this, and Pete's so sick and all of this stuff, and Pat can't see the stars because she can't find her glasses, and then the miracle of finding her glasses. Like, so, but it's a great story. But what was coming up for me was, I'm not here right now. I'm in a story of something that took place, what, 3 years ago or more? I don't know. But isn't it amazing how our system continually does that? All she said was she loves the stars.
Yeah.
Hey, Amy.
Good morning, everyone. I just got finished watching another Tony Parsons video. It's called The Dream Bus, which I guess is some production that's put on in England somewhere. Rupert Spira is the next speaker. It doesn't matter. He was trying to tell everyone there is no me. And he's very very clear and direct in his teaching. And the audience, there were people in the audience that, got kind of mad. And there were long moments of silence. And someone mentioned that Ramana Maharshi said, if you really know what enlightenment is, if most people really knew what enlightenment is, they would run away from it, something like that. So what comes to me here is there's no need to dissect your experience. There's no need to think about your experience except to have it, because there's no me having any experience. It's just experience arising. So every moment that we spend dissecting the experience is actually just pulling away from the experience itself. So the tree, when Cindy started to describe the tree and the icicles, I knew exactly what that looked like. The image just arose within me. And the memory of the beauty of icicles on frozen branches and the diamond world that it creates. And all that's required there is to know the experience that arises. That's it. It arises and then it moves into something else. I don't make it move. I don't make it arise. I'm just it's just the experience of it. It's so pure and so simple and so easily moved away from. That it's really just blowing my mind. It just blows my mind. So David, I completely understand the I thing, but for me, in my experience, the next thing is moving away from even the I. But the I anchored me for a really long time. And I think that, as Rupert says, that's the portal, and so it's a great place to be. But beyond that, there's nothing. And that's why Ramana said, if most people knew what awakening was, they'd run away from it, because it's really nothing. Thank you.
Hey, David.
Amy, I think I'm just I'm at the going up the ladder, and I'm on the I step right now, and I hear what you're saying, because I think I've been reading Stephen Mitchell and Byron Katie talking about you're right, there is nothing, but it's that's scary. It's that's scary. I was just thinking. Since I got sober, and all at once, I was just scared that just the reality of all the things that I've been ignoring and covering over with alcohol or hiding behind my ego. All of a sudden, that sort of went away, and all of a sudden there was all all this now reality stuff. And oh my God, this stuff's so scary, but also so wonderful at the same time that's being scary. And so now, like I say, now I'm getting to the I part, and that makes sense to me. But I'd also been reading, like I say, with Stephen Mitchell and Byron Katie talking about there's not even that. And I understand that. And thank you for pointing that out to me again, because I go, yeah, and I get that. I get that too. And another thing I want to talk about is one of those, or Pema Chodron I've been reading too, is the memories. We pull the memories like you talking about the memory, or it's already a memory of Cindy talking about the tree and the icicles, and you could probably remember when you saw that, and you pull that into the now, and that's just as much now as now is now. I mean, it's all now when we're thinking about it, or when we're seeing it, or when we're seeing it, or being it, or it's all the same. And thank you for triggering something in my mind to remember that, all that stuff, because God, it's really great to just let my mind just go limitless and just go crazy and expand all over everything, because there's no limit, and that's just wonderful.
I'm in this space of awe at the moment, and what set it off is just that Rana and I and Diane Scott are reading A Mind at Home with Itself very slowly, and we meet on Thursdays, which was yesterday. And yesterday we discussed a chapter that is entitled, what was it entitled, Rana? There is nothing. It's like David's in our group and he's not. Because it's the same book, but that was the name of that chapter, right? There is nothing.
Nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Is there some way I can get in on that? Because I'm reading that book and I've underlined almost every line of it. I want to get in on that with you guys.
We could talk about that for sure.
I just feel moved to say, in response to what David was talking about, is that and also what you were saying, Cindy, about the fear. It's the ego that is terrified of the truth. The ego is terrified of the truth because the truth eliminates the ego. In light of the truth, the ego is shown for the nothingness that it is. And so the ego is terrified of the truth, but the ego is not me. I'm not terrified of the truth. The ego is this insane voice in my head that keeps talking to itself. And if I act like it's me or part of me, then I'm going to be listening to it. I don't have to, but I don't know why I want to tell the story. But, when I lived in New York, there was a guy, I worked around Avenue Americas and 52nd Street, and there's a guy who used to hang around in the sidewalk and jump out from between the cars and go, "Scumbag, when are you going to join the human race?" He'd do this. I mean, that was his thing. He just did that all the time. So, of course, Pete, my husband, he fell in love with him. And I now love this guy, too. So Pete used to sneak up behind him and go, "Scumbag." So it's like the ego is this thing that jumps up and says, "Scumbag, you don't know what you're doing," or whatever. "You should be scared," or what? You should whatever. And you just, you can feel an affection for it. You don't have to be scared of it. It's just a little crazy or a lot.
Can I tell you, because I'm still in this awe. This morning in my writing, at some point I'll start publishing my writing, but in my writing this morning, it got identified, what you're calling the ego is a fussy baby. And that the I am is this joy, is this peaceful, quiet space, simply holding the fussy baby. And then further in the writing, I acknowledged that there was this energy that was attempting to pull me into the experience that the fussy baby was having. And sometimes that's the right thing to do. But this morning it was a contemplation, and it was just a fussy baby. And I am that which is holding the fussy baby. And it just brought me back to those memories again of raising babies, and how when I'm in my center, I, as a mother, could hold a fussy baby for hours and stay peaceful, and the baby calms down fairly, or I could get into being the one that needs to change this fussiness, and disaster arises. And I really got to see that picture, and it felt like you were putting different words to that same kind of space. Thank you. Richard's going to tell, if Richard doesn't say love you all, and I'm going to ask him to, but he could say whatever
Love
else.
you all.
Thank you.
What comes to mind, great sharing as always, and I love what everybody said. But when Amy was sharing, the nothingness, and I thought, well, why I'm so happy most of the time is because nothingness is experiencing something. It doesn't matter what the something is, whether it's a thought, an image, a thing like a frozen branch or a swell in my heart. It's just something. And I'm nothing but love, and I'm experiencing something other than myself. What all within me somehow. But so it's joyful just to be experiencing something when I'm nothing. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but that's where I'm at right now.
And before I let Amy talk, because this seems to be a theme here, this morning during my dyad, at one point, because I was in partnership with a friend, the friend who introduced me to the Headless Way, which is what you just reminded me of, the whole teaching of Douglas Harding, I sat here in this dyad space and I just said, it feels like I'm having a response, but based on the Headless Way, ha ha ha, there's no one here responding. So what am I supposed to do with that? But that's what, I'm just enjoying the fact that it all feels like one teaching. Thank you, Richard. Hey, Amy.
Just want to say it's all okay and it's a mystery.
It's fun not knowing. If we contrast, then it becomes really fun not knowing what's going on. Shall we keep reading? Or are you next, Amy?
Sure.
Let me pull it up. All yours.
Okay, we're on, it is important to rely, is that right? Or, okay.
I thought
these statements.
I urge you to read the following statements.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
These statements may seem amazing and untrue right now, but I would urge you to remain open as we begin to break down the assumptions that make it seem as though you are living in a solid, tangible world, inside a solid human body that is moving around in time and space. You will be able to take what you read and see if it is true when you apply it. Only then will you see that nothing is the way you have thought it was. There is just the one, and that one is you. You are everywhere at all times, and you are not somewhere. Ideas like somewhere and everywhere don't apply to you if you're formless. Let's stop and check in right now. Take a moment to directly experience the answer to the question, What am I and where am I? So maybe we should stop and do that. What am I? Where am I? If you notice when you actually experience your true self, you will find you are not a thing, not a form. You can recognize that you're very much here, but where are you exactly? Can you even say where you are and where you are not? Do you have any boundaries?
May I ask a question?
That's why I stopped. I thought someone might have a comment about that.
So the question, where am I actually? So when I use the eyes and I gaze over there, that makes it part of me as soon as the gaze lands there. Does that feel like I'm not here, I'm not there, it's everything in between?
That's a really good question. And what I would say is there isn't any I having any experience. There's no me. It's just what's being experienced.
So when I think about London, I'm not there or here, it's the experience.
Just the experience. It's just a thought that seems to be arising in awareness.
So as I
And
listen,
you are the thought, but you're not the thought. There is no thought. So form and formlessness are the same thing. It's not that form gives rise or formlessness gives rise to form, as Helen says. It's really nothingness. And the nothingness and that which seems to be something are the same thing. They're simultaneous. They happen at the same time. And it's all just, that's the mystery. I mean, in a way, it's the mystery. It's all just what is happening now and the beingness that's happening now and all that it contains, everything that it contains. And it's amazing and wonderful. But I would say, play with what arises in your awareness as what it is. Just play with it. There's no right or wrong way to interpret it. Be with whatever your understanding is at the moment. And don't think, oh, I'm understanding in the wrong way or I'm understanding in the right way. Just have fun with what you're knowing now. Right? Right? It's all just the isness, ising. Does that make sense, Rana?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that particular question, right? Because I don't want to understand this with my mind. And
Right.
so what you just shared with me, I'm going to let that sink in and quote, play with it today.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. I think
Yeah.
play is the right word. It's all just, it should just be fun, really. Because the desire is the love of the self for the self, right? So no, I'll be quiet now.
not necessary. Two things before I hand it to Sandra. One, Kendall states, you cannot tie it down conceptually or otherwise. And I've been having an experience pretty much for this entire meeting that seems appropriate, which is simply I am watching all of these words appear here. So I keep moving into this space of not saying Amy speaking or Richard speaking or Pat speaking. There's simply these words that are flowing in here as a vibration. And I'm having an experience with the pointing without the sense of being a me receiving the words from somebody else. It's friggin' cool. And for the record, so it's easy enough, but I'm hearing all this auditory sensation here. We have a perceptual belief that we are seeing out there. I brought this up because it still blows this mind. The only place seeing the pictures are being formed, if we believe biology, the pictures are being formed somewhere in a brain here. And then there's some activity that projects it and tells you it's out there. But the truth is, from a science biological standpoint, when you say I am seeing something out there, you're actually, the image is here, and then there is a program that tells you it's 100 feet away. Under.
Wow, this is really an experience right here. I agree, it's just an experience. The question that popped in feels like hours ago now, even though it was probably a minute or two ago. But the question was in regard to what Amy was saying, but the question isn't just for Amy, it's for everybody. The nothingness that is difficult to describe. The question, and then you went on to say it's love, expressing love. So my question was, aren't there, when the word nothingness to me it seems to imply an emptiness, and yet there seems to be qualities to the nothingness. And that was my question, I guess. The experience that I have, that this form has, not even the form, whatever. I feel like I can't use the word I now. The experience has qualities. It doesn't feel like nothingness.
Before I hand it to Amy, which I'm going to, as I was listening to you, what was happening here was that word nothing got reinterpreted as no thing.
Yeah.
And then no thing got reinterpreted as formless. And then this idea of formless became wind. And wind has a whole bunch of properties without being a thing.
That answers it. Because nothing, no thing, yes. No object. Nothing I can grab onto. But love is so prevalent, so encompassing, that nothingness doesn't inform what I'm experiencing, I guess.
Richard.
What I've dealt with the whole nothingness thing is, whenever we talk about the ultimate, whatever that is, all right, level 1 or whatever you want to name it, we tend to want a label. In other words, we realize it's all infinite, but we're, as minds, as separate selves, have a finite mind. and the finite mind cannot know the infinite. So, but we always want to know something. So what we seem to do is we label everything. We put a label on it. So what is the label we put on consciousness or infinite awareness or nothingness? We put the label love on it, and we all love the love, right? We all love the love. So, so that's a great label for nothingness, is love. So I dealt with this for a couple of years now, and I love what Abraham Hicks calls source, is non-physical source energy. That's what source is. It's always not physical. It's just energy. Well, that's what I relate to infinite consciousness or infinite awareness or nothingness or formlessness or isness. It's the non-physical energy that pulsating through whatever is, and this energy is what brings life into existence, whatever life is, and whatever form it takes. So, in our case, we're all having a dream where we believe we're figures within the dream. And this energy that forced us to be having this experience comes into each one of us. And each one of us have a different conditioning. And so this formless energy is colored by our individual experiences. So we all seem to be having a separate life, a separate experience as independent beings. But in reality, we're just a reflection of the nothingness or the love that is all pervasive and pervades everything. And we individually have our own stories. We always talk about the stories. God, we have so many stories. And it's funny. I mean, I find it more and more funny how our stories control our emotions and control our thoughts and control our everything that we experience. And it's really funny for me, where I'm at now. When I look at my thoughts and where they take me, wow, that's funny. I mean, they may not be funny at the time. When I reflect on it, I go, wow, that was funny. Where the hell did I go on that? Why did I take that trip? But anyway, love you all.
Love you too. All right, so we're officially over, except that I know that David had raised his hand, and I don't ignore that. And Amy was asked the question, and I didn't know if there was a response, and I'm going to hang out for any of it. But if anybody wants to say, "Oh, the hour's over," know that I love you. There you go.
Well,
Hey, David.
I raised my hand, but my thinking was just in a turmoil. I mean, it's been folding back onto itself. And what I came up with is there is no me, you, anything, but thinking makes it so. In other words, I'm trying to figure it out. And then what I really need to tell myself is shut the hell up and quit trying to figure it out and just know that I'm a part of whatever it is I can't figure out and live and be happy with that.
Have fun.
That's
And I also-
the great mystery, David. That's the great mystery. You know, we're all just kind of along for the ride, just having the experience. And I think, you know, how many of us have ever really experienced complete and total unconditional love? You know, the human mind doesn't have that experience, right? And the human mind can't imagine that experience because it's beyond mind, right? It's just this complete and absolute love for every single thing, even the shameful thoughts, right? Even the unsavory thoughts. What could be unsavory to all that is? That's just a term we give it, right? So coming back full circle, it's all beautiful,
Yeah.
right? As Richard said, it's just infinite unlimitedness, just being itself, you know? It's the indigo joy. That's what it is. It's indigo joy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
there
it's
was a
indigo
book.
joy that I see that thing over there now. That thing over there in Rana's backyard, that's arising in my consciousness right now. Oh, how cool. You know? Oh, how cool. And
Yeah.
then over there, I see a blue ball. Wow, how cool. You know? That's it. That's
It's
all
just
there
like
is.
it's just like that book that of course, I never can remember the title. It's the one where the young boy became the keeper of the memories, and I don't, you know what? Remember that book?
I do. That's a Heilbronner. It's called The Hive of the Hegemon or something like that. The Hive and the Hegemon.
Anyway, it was a story. This lady wrote all of these. She wrote this trilogy about that, and he was in this. It was in this. I guess it was an enclosed community, and everything had to be the same, and you know, and in the sameness of everything lost its color. Everybody lost their ambition. Everybody just wanted to get along and be at peace. But they selected one person to keep the memories of the way things were before, back when the wars and the bombs and all these horrible things happened. And anyway, this young boy, he didn't want to live that way. He wanted to live with color and reality. And so what he did is he escaped the compound and got on the sled and just went the hell down the hill. And I think that's the way I need to look at what, instead of trying to figure all this stuff out and make sense of it and put it down on paper or put it in boxes, like just get on the sled and go down the hill and enjoy the ride.
And I just wanted to read in Alka's comment because it seems like it's just different words for the same thing we've been talking about. She wrote, I think it also means where the mind doesn't function, only awareness. Yeah. And with that, I'm going to turn off. I'm going to turn off the recording. I love us. Mwah.